Hi everyone. So today I want to talk about the ego. What's the ego? I got the wrong figure. So let's dive into it. Inside each one of us, I feel that we're pure, we're innocent, and I call it the true self. The true self, it's the entity that exists within each one of us, which is not saturated with information that we've been learning since we're kids, either from the internet, social media, from our family, friends, teacher, politician, and specialists, and the TV back in the old day when they used to be a thing. And what it means is that all this information, since we're young, is shaping the way we think. I mean, through languages, no matter our culture, the country we're coming from, or the upbringing that our parents are giving us, it shapes the way we think that we want it or not. And maybe we are different than our parents, but it just means that we just let go of some part of the information and we're allowing new information to enter mind and to identify ourselves with. And so I am, I know, I want, and I need. They are not coming from inner truth, but coming from outside. Of course, there's going to be preferences, but even if a baby is picky about one kind of food and the other kind of food, it's in the end because it's introduced at some time in the growth of the baby from their parents or whoever feed them. And our preferences also changes when we receive that information. If we receive a certain kind of information when we're not mature enough, it's going to impact us differently. And then if we are receiving that information when we're a bit more mature, more grown up, or when we have information, basic information that allow us to receive this information in a healthy way. It could be, I don't know, sexuality. Sexuality is important, but if you watch porn when you're a baby or when you're kids, then it's transforming your brain into something that is not healthy, and it rewires the brain in a different way than when you consume something in a state where you're mature. Same thing, it could be with vaccine, it could be with religion. When we're young, we're really malleable. So children don't really choose their religion if it's imposed from their parents, and because we trust our parents, and because we all have our own autonomy in the way we think. We believe that everything that the person is caring for us is telling us, then therefore it's true. And then it's normal when we're younger that we believe everything they tell us, or whatever the priest is telling us, or whatever the government's telling us. Eventually, when we arrive to teenagerhood and we feel our sense of autonomy and we are able to speak that difference within ourselves, then usually there's a revolt, or at least there's questioning. And it doesn't mean that religion or politician are wrong. It just means that we have our own autonomy based on new information we are absorbing individually, away from what our parents or culture is brainwashing us since we're young. But at the end of the day, all this information is what I call the ego. A lot of people kind of voice the ego as something negative. Oh, he has a big ego, he has a bad ego. But at the end of the day, everybody has an ego. Even if we're introvert, even if we're shy, even if we are low profile, it doesn't matter. It's our upbringing shapes us, and the way we perceive ourselves and the way other perceive ourselves, this is our ego. And so some ego are socially more acceptable, more valued, more prized, and more worshipped. But at the end of the day, everybody has an ego. And the spiritual process, on the spiritual path, it's about when it happened when usually we suffer from our ego. We suffer from the knowledge that we have, from the identity that we have. Some people, it's because they have a family and they didn't, it happened too fast, and maybe because somebody got pregnant too quick, and it was not planned, and then they got involved in a relationship they didn't meant to. Or it could be a job pressure from the family into doing something that we're good but necessarily passionate about, and then we identify ourselves, we get promotion, and then the whole circle of family and friends are maybe proud of us, and then we don't know what to do, like I did, like it was my case. And then you keep going, the social ladder, thinking that you're going to be happier on the next stage, but it's never the case, or for most of us it's not the case. And so the journey is to remove those layers of identity that we identify ourselves with. And it's a slow process, the same way as we gain weight physically, there's a way to lose weight. So there's weight, if we want to gain muscle, then we want to gain weight, but in the muscle. But most people don't want to gain too much fat. And so how do we remove fat? Then with the diet, a good diet, meaning good quality of information or good quality of food, and also a purge, exercise, or a stopping bad information. So when I was, I think, between 19 and 21, around the year 2000, I ditched my television, meaning that I put it in the garbage, not because I didn't like watching it, but because I was addicted to watch it and I couldn't stop watching it, or I couldn't watch it in a moderate way. And I knew that it was taxing my time, my energy, and also changing the way I was thinking. So I got rid of it. And that was one of the few stage where I feel I act upon my inner difference. The first time was when I was 17, when I think I already shared about it, when I stopped buying Christmas present, birthday present, and then kind of mainstream celebration, and then the television. And the same year, I cut my landline, so I had no telephone, and that was way before cell phone. So I didn't have any kind of phone for over 20 years. And it's not until maybe 2012 I bought my first computer, but it was not connected to the internet, like at least 95% of the time. I was just using it for writing my book that you see right here. And so what happened is that the process of getting rid of all this allowed me to peel layers of ego, layers of self-identity. And then eventually I was not anymore an economist. I forgot everything I had learned. I was not a civil servant. And then I became undefined. And when you're undefined, it doesn't feel it feels okay when you're on your own, but it doesn't feel good when you are interacting with others, because in a social environment, everyone is asking, what are you doing? And then we are connecting with people who have similar skills, similar passions, similar um, quality. And when you are in the process of removing all what used to define you, and you don't know how to define yourself again, it feels really vulnerable. Really, you feel weak. You feel I don't know. It's say for example, when I didn't speak English the first time I left my first transition. I left Montreal, where I spoke only French, and then I moved to the west coast of Canada, and then I had to learn English at 25 years old. Even if it was taught at school, I never learned it. And then I had to learn how to work with my hand, but I was clumsy and incompetent with everything I was starting to do. And so my ego, at least for a whole year, was really undefined. I was really unconfident, really, yeah. It felt I was off, but at the same time, it felt good because I was getting rid of something I didn't want to identify myself with. And this felt good. This felt like a weight off my shoulder. But eventually, it felt good that I became better at climbing. It feels good that I became better at construction, and I redefined myself. And I was proud of the stuff I was building, the difficulty of route I was climbing, and also to connect with people who were in the same boat as me, either to trade or to my passion with climbing. because nobody who's at an advanced level, no matter what, want to hang out too much with people who are at the baby level. And so when I became good enough, then naturally I attract people at the same level. And then it's a boost of confidence, it's a boost of ego. And then slowly, that became my new identity, how I identify myself when I present myself, the way I dress, the way I talk, the way I behave, the way I interact with the world. And this is how other people were perceiving me. Eventually, 2011, 2012, I got injury, all seven injury, all on the right side, couldn't work, couldn't climb. And this is when I had to let go of my old, again, I had to let go of the old identity. And in 2011, 2012, I lost that identity because of injury. And it was really sad because as much as I wanted to lose the first one, living in a city and working in and then studying, because I wasn't happy with that life. I was really proud to be a carpenter. I was really proud to be a competent rock climber. And when life took it away from me, it was really hard to let go. And I feel that's why the universe keep injuring me over and over to make me sure that I wouldn't label myself as that identity anymore, so I could discover something else about myself. And then again, I shared already, I went on a meditation retreat. I lost a lot of weight because I was fasting for over 15 days, and then something came up to me, and then I felt that I eradicate again even more layers, and I discover what true self mean. And it was an emotion. I wouldn't be able to express it in words, so people who haven't experienced it could understand, because it's not something to understand, but it's a realization of our true identity. And and eventually wanting to understand what this experience was about, because I was uneducated about the spiritual identity knowledge and everything. I went really deep and read hundreds of books and studied with teachers, masters, and guru in India for many years, and had my own self practice. I was practicing 8 hour minimum every day for 7.5 years. And this became my new identity, ego, spiritual ego. And it's a normal process. A lot of people in a conscious or spiritual community talk bad or down to spiritual ego. But every time you are undefined is the only time where you have an unshaped ego. And people will still label you, but it won't fit in. But every time you gain knowledge, skill, I was practicing 3 hour of yoga for over 9 years, and meditation and Tai Chi and Qigong and all this kind of stuff, till all those knowledge became my new identity. And also when I was practicing an ashram in front of people see your skill the same way as when I'm rock climbing. When you're talented, people perceive you as such, label you as such, and it becomes your identity, how people perceive yourself. So ego is not something wrong. The problem is when we think we are the ego, and when life takes it away from us, we suffer because we think we're losing a part of ourselves, which is true in some ways, but we're not losing ourselves. The true self cannot be lost. The true self is the only true part of our identity. And so we are losing layers that we gain through life. And I believe I'm going to earn and lose many more layer identity, or ego identity. And it's okay, because every time it feels bad in the moment we are losing one, when we have nothing, but it feels amazing discovering a new layers, rebuilding a new layers. It's like a rebirth every time. And I lost my flow. I wanted to say that uh, I wanted to say that. Give me a second. Yeah, so I was saying that being undefined, it's scary and uncomfortable to be in a normal world where identity is so important. But to be naked and free and pure on your own is freedom. It's amazing. Yeah, the state of no ego, no thought, and to be comfortable with it is mind blowing. I think I've never been in the mind of somebody else, but I think people who experience psychedelic are somehow experiencing something similar. But because if we're not ready, if we haven't done the process of cleansing ourselves before trying psychedelic, it might be something extremely overwhelming at first, mostly when we come back to reality. Like not being something or losing what we thought we were is it can be overwhelming at first. But I went to a really, really slow process. I've never experienced psychedelic until many years later after my spiritual journey. So I was already, for me, it was like, wow, it's the same thing. So they do bring to the same path. But I feel the fact that I went through the slow process, having a really long practice on my own for many years, brought me stability, which I feel people who are, maybe not everyone, but people who are trying to shortcut with psychedelic, it's not as sustainable, meaning that if you are just experiencing one or two times a psychedelic and realizing so many things, it's like going to an operation and sucking and having a liposuction to all removing your fat. It doesn't mean that it will be sustainable for your lost weight. And it means that you're more likely to regain all the bullshit that you were trying to lose in the first place. And compared to somebody who take the long journey of going to the gym every day or almost every day, changing their diet, changing the lifestyle over the course of many months, many years, that process is likely to be more sustainable for sustaining health and growth than somebody who's taking the shortcut with surgery. So, not that I have anything wrong with psychedelic, but at the same time, I feel that without a serious transformation of life post psychedelic, then people are more likely to relapse easily into their old life, into their old pattern, and then the psychedelic just becomes a memory of a trip, yeah, of a journey. Um, yes, what do I want to share more? Do I have? Okay, so here we go. I know. So why is it so important? It's because layers of ego, layers of information become a cluster from us being connected with the divine. A true self is inner guru, is inner God, and is the same thing as outer guru and outer God. Without conditioning, we are in constant channeling, constant communication with higher purpose, higher divinity. And then the layers become filters. The layers of ego become filters, and instead of going toward our destiny, we're going toward ego growth. Ego growth, because this is what conditioning is all about, is gaining status, being good at school, at work, making money, having a family and all that. And that's nothing wrong with it if it feels aligned with you. And maybe I'll have a family one day, maybe I'll be rich one day. But I feel that there's a difference from doing it from the right path than from doing it from the conditioning path, which is toward ego growth. And so this is another drawing. We're naturally magnetically attracted toward consciousness, toward the divine, toward a higher purpose. And it's not shaped automatically into a goal like society tells us. It's like you're successful when you're gonna have $1 million. You're successful when you're gonna drive a fancy car. You're successful when you're gonna have your own house, two car, children, and a wife. Or when you're gonna have 1 million subscriber. So those are marker of ego society for success. And there's also a marker if you're not successful and people point at you, people blame you, people shame you. But if we remove those beliefs, if we remove those conditioning, ouch, then we forgot or we disidentify ourselves with this labeling from society, and then we're taking a different direction. And this is different. So, and like I don't think I experienced it, even if I'm in my mid 40s already. I don't think I experienced a midlife crisis. Maybe I'll have one later on. But an awakening toward your true purpose is not a midlife crisis. Is not like sleeping with 20 years old girl and wanting to buy a fast car to drive. It's not. What I feel a midlife crisis is people who have grown from children to adult without passing through teenagerhood. And so they're living the teenage year or the teenage mentality after, because they went so fast into adult world, into responsibility, into maybe building a business, a family, and everything, and then they realize this is not the way, and then they want to go back to living like a teenager, careless, partying, dating, and then enjoying life, have fun, and etc. etc. Like a teenager. There's nothing wrong. It's part of the path. I think we all need to go from kids, children, into teenagerhood, into adulthood, and some people are skipping step and then they're coming back to teenagerhood. And I feel maybe I'm wrong. This is what midlife crisis is. But awakening is removing the useless, so what is inward can come out, and connect and pave us a path for true purpose. And it could be professionally, it could be so many different things, but in the end it's really about being aligned with that inner voice within ourselves. And if we are allowing too much information into our brain from conditioning, from outside conditioning, then we are naturally blocking that inner voice. It's always there, but the way I say it is that it's more subtle. It's like it's like if you block all the background noise, then you can still hear more subtle noise. But when there's too much background noise, then you cannot hear the subtle noise. And the voice of the true self is always there, always guiding us. But when we keep our mind busy, our life busy, then we cannot see, perceive, and hear it. And this is why we are not noticing it. A lot of people would be ready to get rid of their ego life because they're unhappy, but they don't want to get rid of it without being sure that they're going to get something worth it from letting go. They want a guarantee. And this is not how the universe works. This is not how spiritual awakening works. This is not how the spiritual path works, unfortunately. If not, everybody would be in it. And in fewer words, it's, for me, it's, you have to get rid of everything that you have. That everybody is okay to get rid of stuff that we don't enjoy from our life, but nobody wants to get rid of stuff that we do enjoy about our life. And it's a hard decision, but at the end, if you feel empty, there's only one way out of it, and it's to let go, sometime of people. And it doesn't mean that you have to let them go forever, either family, partners. I just say that we have to let them go enough for us to be able to listen to that inner voice. I'm not also preaching for dismissing responsibility if we have children, but you know better for yourself. Path is easier without children, but I know a lot of people who've managed to walk the path even with many children under their responsibility. So I will leave that to today. Sorry for the few interruptions, and then I'll come back and talk more about it in the next video. Feel free to comment if you connect with what I share, and if you have questions, if you didn't agree. And please take the time to subscribe, it costs nothing, and it helps the channel to spread the word. Love you all. Talk to you in the next one.